Hello and welcome back to Goswick Lane. We have a special guest with us today. This is Bradon Oram. Y'all welcome Bradon Oram to the show.
How y'all doing this morning?
Bradon, so in honor of how Bradon and I met, it was a guy, our real estate agent, that I solely use on anything that I'm going through an agent for. He's our guy. His name's Jinty Patel. And he gave me a hat yesterday. Jinty is always giving stuff away.
Best marketer out there.
He is the best marketing real estate agent
Yeah,
in East Texas, period.
I
doubt.
would agree.
I'm also, coincidentally, he puts his face on everything.
The big head realtor.
That's right. So
Surprisingly, though, he really doesn't have that big of a head.
he doesn't. He's pretty humble. For a guy in his position and that sells as much stuff, as much real estate as he sells,
I would agree.
he is very humble
I would agree.
and very relational. If you have a good relationship with Jinty, he'll do a lot of stuff for you even outside of real estate.
Yeah, for sure.
And this is another good plug for him. If he sells a house for you, he'll cook you a steak at his house if you want him to.
I haven't gotten that yet.
Well, I didn't get it. I invited myself to his house. I said, "Hey, my wife and I are coming over. When do you want to have us? We're cooking some steaks, or you're cooking some steaks.
Maybe I need to do that.
You need to just be forward with him, and he'll do it. He'll cook you up some steaks." So Bradon, I met Bradon through Jinty on a deal that we bought from Bradon. We actually just closed that one.
Which one was that?
Rainbow.
The rainbow one. Yeah.
3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah, approximately.
And we're working on another deal that we're buying from Bradon as well on Caddo. And just through that, kind of got to know Bradon. Bradon, I had heard about you before. Yeah.
Good or bad?
Well, we'll get there. No, I'd heard about you. So one of the guys that works for me, Paxton McGarvey, had just mentioned your name, and then I think I had talked to his dad, Doug, and Doug said, "Hey, man, if you're in real estate, you need to talk to Bradon or his dad," and just told me kind of all the things that you guys were doing. This is probably 2-3 months before I actually met you. And then when I figured out we were buying Rainbow from you, I kind of put it all together.
Right.
But Bradon, first of all, let me hear a little bit about you, your family. You got wife and kids.
Got a wife. Got 2 boys.
Okay.
So they are 3.5 twin boys.
I did not know you had twins.
Judd and Rhett, or as I call them, Buck and Buster.
I like that a lot. Are they like true Buck and Buster? Like,
Yeah, they're pretty wild.
okay.
Yeah.
Do you tag in with that wildness?
I like to try to say no, but my wife would say yes.
Mm-hmm. Dad's always encouraging roughhousing, isn't he?
Oh, man, we can have like an MMA match every night. I mean, it's like a real match.
Does this happen in the living room?
Every day.
Does Mama get upset about it?
Not at all.
Okay, that's awesome.
No, not at all.
That's awesome. So 3.5, Buck and Buster. That's too cool, man. That's too cool. I see stuff on social media with you and your family, and y'all are always like out fishing. Like when y'all do stuff together as a family, you're.
Oh yeah, my wife grew up, hunting, fishing,
Okay.
staying outside, playing sports, things like that. And so we've really integrated that with our boys and our family. Obviously, I grew up doing the same thing. So I kind of probably push them maybe a little bit too hard as far as their age and what they can do.
Well, how do they respond to that?
The bad thing, so there's pros and cons of having twins. The pro is they're always pushing each other, right? So one wants to go, 2 steps, and the next one's going to go 3, and then it's 4 and 5. And so they're always pushing each other to the
and
next
step. And then something
step.
breaks.
But then something goes wrong, or they steal each other's toy, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's right back to like baby mode.
Okay.
And so it can be hectic, but it can be really fun at the same time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, man, there's something about those outdoor activities with your family that really create a bond.
Oh, for sure.
Because you're outside, you're doing stuff, you're working together, having fun together. Those type of I love it when my kids go hunting with me, or when we're at the lake and we have to have we have lake time out on the boat, skiing or wakeboarding or whatever we're doing. It seems like or side by siding, you know. It seems like those type of vacations kind of promote a family unit, maybe more than just going like on a typical vacation.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's how I grew up too, is always going to the lake and being outdoors. But one of the biggest things for us is the boys just act so much better being outside.
Okay.
Because
they're active.
being busy. Yeah, just being busy.
Yeah, being boys.
Right. And so, like, if they're inside, man, it's just hectic. They're always breaking something or getting into something. So it's just like, let's just go outside. And, of course, right now with the Texas heat, it's horrible.
Man, the other night I was driving home. It was 9 o'clock. It was 94 degrees.
I know.
Now, last night was awesome.
Honestly, the past 2 weeks,
yeah,
it's been a pretty good weather break.
It's been typically when it's over 100 in Texas for a month and a half straight, and you hit those days that hit like 97 after it's been 104 for 7 days straight, it feels like we're on a vacation.
Yeah. It's got to be somewhat of a vacation for your lawn care business too. I mean,
man, those guys work really hard in the heat every day. You know, they get started early, but they're usually working till 3 or 3:30 every day, and 3 or 3:30 is probably the hottest part of the day. 2 to 3:30, somewhere in there.
Oh, 100%.
So, yeah, that is difficult, and fortunately, we have great guys that work for us right now that handle all that stuff, and I'm not actually having to be the one out in the heat and doing it anymore. But for a long time, I did. And it's every once in a while I'll get back out there with them and realize.
Just to kind of show them, hey, I can still do this if I have to.
But I can't do it all day anymore. You know, I can't be in the sun all day anymore. That just takes a tolerance.
Yep.
You know. So, all right, transitioning. Talk about your wife. Did she grow up around here?
She grew up over in White Oak.
Okay.
So not too far from here, still in East Texas.
Yeah. Okay.
But she grew up in White Oak, and then we met. I think we were 19.
Okay.
So we were 19 when we met, and then got married fairly young, 21 years old.
How old are you, Bradon?
I'm 28.
Okay. I thought you were older.
No.
It's that full beard that got me.
I've had that since I was like
junior,
senior in high school.
Okay. Did you go to Hallsville?
I did. Yep.
Okay. All right.
Yep, class of 2012.
Okay. Awesome. A quick question off the cuff. When are you going to get your boys their first cell phone?
Oh, man, they're going to be old.
Why?
So I was the last one of my friend group to have a cell phone.
Okay. How old were you?
I think I was probably 14, which was still relatively young.
Yeah.
But for my generation growing up, I mean, I was, 8th grade.
Yeah.
And so I kind of started doing more.
You're talking about 14 years ago where cell phones were becoming prevalent.
Yeah. And I mean, really even before that, because I remember like my brother and sister, I'm the baby of the family. And so they were the last ones of their group to get a cell phone too. They were 16. So
okay.
Kind of the unwritten rule was when you start driving, then you get a cell phone.
Yeah.
That way you can contact mom and dad about where you're at or when you're coming home.
Yeah.
So I was 14, and that's because we moved to Hallsville my 8th grade year.
Okay.
So we were actually still living in Longview at the time, so that's a good distance away. And so I got a cell phone.
You're starting like after-school activities and stuff like that.
Right, or hanging out with friends, whatever it was. And so that way they could keep tabs on me because I was a little rambunctious probably, and,
No way.
Yeah. They never really knew where I was at. So.
Okay.
Now, luckily, my parents are about like me and not very tech savvy.
Yeah.
So they didn't know how to, track where I was at on a cell phone or anything.
Yeah. It's a lot easier to do that now.
Oh, for sure.
There's a lot more technology where you can keep up with your kids. Now, if you would ask me that when my kid was 5, I would have said she'll be 16. My oldest is.
I think now it's probably just too old because kids are getting cell phones at what, like 8 years old now?
Dude. So, yes. So my middle son is 11. He's in 5th grade. And I believe that, I don't know about everyone in his class, but I know that everyone in his friend group has a cell phone except him. As I'm picking him up from school, when school ended last year, they're all like, Memphis, what's your cell number? And he's like, I don't have a cell phone. Leave me alone.
Now, one thing I might do, like my sister just got her daughter, and I believe her son too. And I think it's like a little watch thing.
Yes.
And like I think you can pre-program like 2 numbers or 3 numbers or something like that into it. But you can also track them. And so like, we live out in the country, so I can maybe see myself getting that for the boys because, man, they're just all over the place.
Yeah. Well, we ended up getting one for our daughter. She's 13. We got it for her Christmas last year, and it was not necessarily something we planned for, but it was at this point in our life, it was a convenience for us, but very protected.
Yeah, I think once it becomes a convenience to the parents, it's time to do it.
Yeah.
So as you know, she was 12, I guess, whenever she got it.
She was 13.
So
she had just turned 13.
It's kind of like when they start doing more activities.
Yeah.
Then it's kind of time to do it.
Yeah. My thought before that was every one of your friends has one. Just call us from there if you need to get in touch with us. Anyways, enough about cell phones. Let's go back to you're big into real estate, flipping rental houses, building new houses now. How many deals would you say you've done? How many doors? Let's go doors.
Man, doors wise, like total, probably close to 120, 130 doors, something like that.
So you're on up there in the doors. Some of those were bigger properties with multiple doors.
Yeah. And so, somewhere around the 120, 130 mark, maybe a little bit more, just kind of give or take. I think right now we currently have maybe 90.
Okay.
95 doors, I believe.
And are all those long-term rentals?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So as you know, I'm trying to get into some of the short-term stuff.
Yeah.
Don't know much about it. Still learning, obviously, on that.
Yeah.
But my goal was always kind of to do some short-term, and kind of before it really got popular, but I really wanted to do it more for vacation homes.
Yeah.
So, say I wanted a beach house and just break even.
Yeah.
Or hell, even if I had to throw in $500 a month or $700 a month.
Somewhere for you and your family to go that
and then
paid for itself.
And I'm so young, in 20 years, it'd be paid off at 45, 48 years old, and it's paid for.
Yeah.
And now I have a vacation home to go to when I'm retired.
Yeah.
And just kind of do that in multiple places, a cabin up in the mountains, beach house, a lake house, whatever they are, and just kind of jump around all year round.
That's absolutely a possibility. I think, like if you'd have bought something in Broken Bow 10 years ago, you would, the equity that you would have in that property would be insane. Even 5 years ago.
Well, we say that, but the thing is the market's crazy right now, right?
Yeah.
But in 10 more years, we're going to be saying the same thing.
Yeah, you're right.
It's going to say, man, if you would have bought something 10 years ago.
Where that house in Broken Bow, let's say 5 years ago, where that house in Broken Bow, you could get one for probably $250 to $300. We thought that was insane.
Right.
It's like, no way, it'll go down.
Mm-hmm.
And now that that $250,000 house in Broken Bow 5 years ago is probably $600,000 now.
And that's why my model's kind of changed now, I would say, over the last 2 years of what I do because of that scenario right there, the way the market is.
Appreciation
so I got away from some of the older houses and got into the new construction.
Right, because you don't get as much appreciation on the older houses in a say a little bit rougher neighborhood.
Right, and not only that, but just everybody wants so much money for these older houses now because the market is so saturated, right?
Yeah.
That I can build a house.
Yes.
For the same price, if not cheaper,
well,
and it's brand new.
You know exactly or almost exactly what it's going to cost you to build a house. Or when you go into an older house for a rehab, there's so many unknowns.
There's some variables in there, right?
You can kind of plan for those as we're learning. The better you get, the more you can plan for them. But still, there's only so much equity that you have to be able to put so much money into that property. And if you find something that's terrible,
what's it going to rent for?
Right.
And it's like, are you going in there and doing everything, or is there still going to be some maintenance issues? The plumbing's still going to be older.
Yeah.
And so I can do some plumbing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really want to do any plumbing anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I can do some plumbing. And
that's been probably the majority of the issues on the older properties that we've rehabbed to rent is we'll get them completed and then plumbing issues start popping up.
That's why when I was buying older properties, I really liked the pier and beam houses.
You can work on them.
I can work on them.
You can completely redo that thing.
I can crawl underneath them, and it's nothing to run all new PEX for an entire 3-bedroom, 2-bath house.
Yeah.
In a pier and beam home.
Yeah. So we were talking a little bit off air. You started learning about real estate. So you're 28 now. You started learning about real estate when your dad got into real estate How old were you then?
I was probably, I think I was like 14.
Okay.
Now, I've always been around the construction world, you know,
Okay.
so I was, like I said, I was the baby of the family. So mom and dad were 30 when they had me, and I think I was about 5 or so, and dad started, you know, building some houses. Now, before that, he was kind of a general handyman, painter, you know, he had a painting crew, things like that, but he started doing some general contracting, and so, you know, at the age of 5, they didn't have money for a daycare, and I'd be going out to the job sites with them.
Picking up trash.
Whatever. My job was to get a 2x4, you know, a little scrap 2x4 about yay big, and a hammer.
Okay.
And he'd make me pick up all the nails, and I would just drive nails into this little 2x4 just to keep me busy, and I'd come back, and the whole thing was just slap full of nails.
I bet you could drive a nail pretty good by the time you were 7 or 8.
Yeah, I mean, actually, by the time 7 or 8, I was trying to hijack tractors. And
Okay. Dad, I'm ready to be on the machine over there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
They've got a funny story about me about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years old or so. And, you know, those trenchers, you know, you do a little ditch witch. Well, they had one out at a job site. They were getting ready for a sprinkler system or plumbing, you know, whatever it was. But the house was already framed up and had the, you know, the outside OSB on it and everything. And I saw this tractor, and they didn't think anything of it. Well, I went over there, and I had found a flathead screwdriver, you know, and so it's one of those older machines that they didn't even use a key. They were using the screwdriver to start it. And so I got up in that seat, got that screwdriver in there, cranked it up, started pulling levers, you know. You know, 5, 6 years old. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I started pulling levers, and all of a sudden that old ditch witch started turning. I put it in gear, and I'm heading straight towards the house.
Oh, gosh.
And so, you know, Dad's over there waving his arms like,
Stop.
Get the heck off that. You know, I'm sure there's probably some other choice words. But had to run over there and just threw me off the tractor, got on there, and, you know, I think I came within like 3 foot, 4 foot of the house.
Wow. That's funny, man. So you had that experience. Your dad, you told me your dad kind of started from humble beginnings, and the beginning of his real estate journey was managing and operating a mobile park. Right?
No. So his humble beginnings were him and Mom got married at a really young age as well. They lived in a mobile home park, Valentine.
Okay.
Or not Valentine, but Flamingo over there in Pine Tree.
Okay.
So Mom was a hairdresser and Dad was a truck driver.
Okay.
And that's how they got started. And they lived there. They had my brother and sister in there, and you know, kind of got to move on from there.
Mm-hmm.
But Dad was always a real, I mean, he's a hard worker, you know, and a pretty savvy guy. But he didn't know what he was necessarily doing. He just knew that this is a good decision. This is a good business decision.
Right.
I know I want to make a lot of money. How can I do that? And that was by owning your own business. And so, you know, he jumped around from being a truck driver to being a handyman, starting a painting crew, pest control, and then he's like, okay, you know, I need some benefits for my family. I need a steady paycheck. You know, I don't want to live my life of when's the next job, or when's my next paycheck kind of thing. So he went to Fire Academy, and man, I think he was like 28, 29 years old, something like that, and maybe a little bit younger, but somewhere around that age, about my age right now. And he went to Fire Academy down in, I believe, Beaumont. Had to live there for, I think, 6 months.
So I guess Kilgore didn't have a program at this time.
I don't think they had a program yet. And if they did, maybe it was full or something like that. But so he went down there and had to actually live there for, you know, whatever that time frame was, 4 to 6 months, and just didn't even have the money to come back. You know, maybe once a month he could come back or something like that. But it wasn't every weekend. Isn't
it interesting that the sacrifices that our parents made propel us forward?
Oh, for sure. I mean, you know, I guess the saying always goes, you want your kids to do better than what you do.
Yeah.
And so obviously, you know, they did better than what their family did, and I'm sure it'd be this, you know, they want it to be the same way. They want their children to do better than what they did, and same thing for you and I.
Yeah.
Now
we can take that and run with it, or we can be lazy bums and not. You know, it's always the choice of the kids.
Well, the way that we were raised in our family, we were raised pretty poorly. I mean, you know, Dad
financially wise, right?
Yeah, we always had, you know, food on the table and a roof over our head, a nice place to stay. But it was always stretched thin. You know, if something went wrong, they're like.
Did you know that growing up though? Did you know that you were financially?
For me, by the time I came along, remember I'm the third kid, so I'm the baby. So they were 30 years old, and they kind of had their stuff together.
Okay.
At that point, Dad had a job. I think the day I was born, he started Longview Fire Department the next day.
Okay.
Kind of thing. So like I was born, and then the next day is starting Longview Fire. So he had a career, and he still had.
There wasn't. Dads didn't get 2 weeks off when a baby was born like they do now in some companies. No, you just went back to work.
And so, by the time I came along, we still weren't super well off, but he had a steady paycheck.
You knew like there was going to be food on the table. You're going to have
right.
a nice place to live. Yeah.
And he had a second job. So, back then, every fireman always had a second job. And a lot of them still do, but the pay's a lot better now to where it's not necessary.
Yeah.
But so he's working on his days off too, being a painter. And so now he's got 2 incomes from him and an income from my mother as well.
Yeah.
So by the time I came along, we were doing, we're middle class, I guess you'd say. Yeah. Maybe even lower than that. But my brother and sister, they grew up quite poorly, I guess.
Yeah. So from that moment, and your dad getting into real estate, starting out as a handyman, painter, and then up to the time when you said specifically when you're 14 or 15, he started investing in properties.
So he got into some custom home building, and I would say, and probably a lot of people would say, he was one of the top builders in East Texas. So if you go around anywhere, most people are going to know Steve Oram as a home builder. And so he got into some pretty nice custom houses and met some obviously wealthy people, right? So you're getting into a different world by building these nice houses. And Dad's a real outgoing guy and likable person. And so, depends on who you ask. But
well, there's always somebody out there that may not like you.
If you're doing your job correctly, then somebody's not going to like you.
You're absolutely right.
And so you can't appease everybody. But so he was meeting some newer people, right?
Yeah.
And some wealthier guys. And I think that's when he kind of probably started learning more about investing. He always knew that, hey, I need to put my money somewhere.
Yeah.
And so he kind of dabbled in, like he built a nice custom home for somebody that had some compressors or something. And, I think, hey, instead of paying me my last draw, let's put me in on this compressor.
Okay.
Things like that. And so he was always trying to put his money somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like, and that brings up a great point, is like how important it is to have those relationships, to put yourself in those circles of people that know something that you don't.
It's like the old saying goes, show me your friends, I'll show you your future.
That's right. You are an average of the top 5 people that you hang out with.
100%.
There's no doubt, because those traits rub off on you. Yeah. So if you're in a spot that you don't like, that you kind of see that is not propelling you forward to where you want to be in the future, change your group. And I guarantee you within a couple years, things will start to change.
Yeah, so, fast forward, I was probably, 14, just say give or take 14. Maybe I was 13 to 15. But he met a guy, and he was wanting to get into real estate, had some, decent equity about him and a lot of money. And so they got into some rental properties. Actually, it was back in the 08 to 2010 crisis.
Okay. Yeah, 08 was pretty rough.
Yeah, so obviously I was still in school. I was a freshman.
Okay.
But they were going down to Houston and buying houses for like, $50,000-$60,000 and then holding them for 2 years and then selling them and making a good profit.
Yeah.
And so they ended up, building an apartment complex together. So Dad had the construction background, and this guy was a doctor.
Mm-hmm. And actually, he had the money.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, but really,
or the access to money.
What happened was they got into that, and this guy was very savvy, and so they got into it together. And then I'm sitting here listening, whether it be driving down the road in the truck, and he's on the telephone. I was always very in tune. I was always listening. What's going on.
Yeah.
And then I would ask questions, and he would tell me.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously now I'm old enough I can retain that information.
Yeah.
And maybe not retain it all, but I had a bug, so he got to plant that bug in me.
Yeah.
And then I would go home, and so if I didn't know something, I didn't like asking people questions. I would just go home and research it. And so obviously our generation, you have a world of access.
Man,
get on YouTube.
This is insane.
If you don't know something, that's your fault because there's so much access right now.
Absolutely right.
That it's your fault.
Yeah. My daughter came to me the other day and she was asking me, can you set up this game on the Xbox for me? And I said, Google it. Like, if you can't figure it out from there, I'll help you. But there's all the information at your fingertips. Use that information before you, like, to me, it was, those kind of questions, and not just this question, but any question that somebody will ask me sometimes, if the answer is so readily available right in front of us, what you're doing by asking that question sometimes is saying, hey, I want a shortcut because I don't want to put the work in to find out for myself. Now, there are times that I'm sure that you still go to your dad.
Oh, for sure.
And ask questions because of experience.
Yeah, especially when it comes to like construction type stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, man, if you're in this day and age, if you can't figure something out just by, I mean, this is a tool.
Yeah.
And so if you can't get on there and Google it or YouTube it or whatever, then you ain't got any business.
Now, as I was growing up coming into my teenage years, we didn't have that. And for sure, like anybody before that, our parents. So the resources then were people. Like you had to know the right people who knew. If you're working on a car and you didn't know how to pull a carburetor, you say, hey, Jimmy, man, I know you pulled that carburetor on that 76 Camaro you got. Can you come over here and help me? You know.
And now you just touch your fingers.
I think it's also part of a little bit of the downfall of our society is that like everything back then was created based on relationships, right?
Yep.
And who knew what based on their experience. And now we do have this. And so there's a delicate balance there of, you know, it's still vital to promote good relationships in our life.
I agree. But I remember first getting started out really on anything. And like somebody would be talking to me or I'd be talking to them on the telephone and they would say some term, you know, whether it be real estate and real estate term or whatever it was. I'm like,
yeah, what does that mean?
What the heck is that? And I just be like, put them on speaker and get on Google real quick and look it up. And be like, oh,
okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man. That cap rate does sound great.
Yeah, cap rate. What? I don't know. And cap rate, like if you're looking up cap rate and it's your first time reading it, it's like, I really need somebody to explain this to me.
Yeah,
it's like it's a little bit difficult to wrap your head around. All right, so we're gonna stop right there, but we're gonna jump right back in with Bradon. So if you're interested to hear in more on deals he's done, how we're gonna walk through how he evaluates a deal, construction tips and tricks, all those things, whatever you want to talk about next, whatever you feel like is vital for other people to hear. We're going to jump into that on the next podcast. So remember, love God, love others, and let everything you do reflect that. We'll catch you on the next one.